Hello, everyone. Hey, what's up, Jeff?
How are you, Dash? I am doing wonderful. I'm so excited to be here. I feel so formal. I've got like a nice button-up shirt, and I have a last name. I'm realizing I should not have a last name. I should just be Jeff, not Jeff Holland. But I'm doing great.
Yeah, and then this is where data does more. Long time no see, by the way.
Yeah, it's been a whole last week was Summit. Hopefully some of you who are watching were even able to join, and feel free to let us know in the chat, where you're dialing in from, where you're watching from. We'll keep an eye on chat as we go. But last week was Summit. Got to see a lot of you. It feels like it's been a year since Summit. It also feels like it was just yesterday that we were getting ready to go share some about Snowflake Intelligence, which is what we get to talk a bit more now here.
Well, exactly. What a great segue. I just want to thank everyone for joining. Like Jeff mentioned, please let us know where you're from, where you're joining us from today. And also, if you have any questions, feel free to add them as well. But other than that, should we get started, Jeff?
Let's do it. Let's jump into it. Let's
Go.
talk about the exciting new updates.
Yeah, the floor is yours.
Sure. Yeah, I'll start things off. So one of the big announcements that we made last week, or I guess that we made some noise about because we actually announced it back in
Hmm.
November at Build, is Snowflake Intelligence. So just wanted to spend some time and record a bit of a video and give people a little bit more of a heads up and information on that. So this is really around pulling together so many of the different pieces that Snowflake has been investing on and delivering on across AI and data, putting them all together in a application that anyone in your business could use that lives entirely separate
Hmm.
from Snowflake. You'll see this in a second. But it's all built on Snowflake. It's all connected to your data, and it lets you have really rich, powerful, insight-based conversations on top of your data. So the way I often think about this is like there's so much really useful, valuable data
Hmm.
that is hiding in organizations. And for most people, myself included, or I guess myself included before I use Snowflake Intelligence every day, the way that I'm usually getting access to this data is I'm jumping across different dashboards, I'm jumping across different applications. Okay, I'm going to go get this data from Salesforce. I'm going to go search Slack for this data. I'm going to go look at this dashboard and try to understand this data, open these streamlets. And we've survived. You can do that, but it takes a lot of time and it's a bit cumbersome. And we want to make that a bit easier. Like we want to help anyone be able to
Hmm.
say, like, hey, I want to know what's happening in my business right now. And more importantly, I want to know why it's happening in its business. And what we have seen is that AI actually provides this huge potential to help deliver those insights and answers in the same way that, I open up ChatGPT and I can ask it a question about, hey, I'm going and visiting, I don't know, Florida next week. Like, tell
Hmm.
me some cool things to do. And it has all this useful data and information and insights for me. I want to be able to do that on top of the data within my organization. So, Snowflake Intelligence, it's much cooler to see, which you'll see in a second. But it really pulls all this together. And what we announced at Summit is that it's going to be in public preview very, very soon. So if you don't already have access to it through the private preview, keep in a watch out, and you will see that being posted to public preview very soon so that everybody can go use it.
That's awesome. Should we just show what it's all about and how it works?
I think so. I think it's so much
Nothing better
cooler to
than a
see it.
demo, right? Yeah.
Yeah. We've got a demo. Dash is sharing a screen. He's in the driver's seat here. So Dash is at Snowflake Intelligence right now. There's two ways that you can get to Snowflake Intelligence. The first is through the regular Snowsite portal in the AIML
Hmm.
section. But the second is at its own dedicated portal, which is ai.snowflake.com. And this is useful because you might want to give somebody in your company access to be able to have these types of conversations, but you don't necessarily want them mucking around your worksheets and your query monitoring and your admin console or
Hmm.
whatever else. But this is what it looks like. You can see it already knows who Dash is. We've got Dash's snowboarding logo in the bottom left. And it has various agents. I think in this account, you only have the one agent, right? Dash AI. Oh, no, you've got
Actually,
a
I have
few.
three.
Yeah, see, so like you can have a few different agents here as well. In this case, this is powered in Dash's account with Claude 3.7, so he could just have a conversation there. He's got
Hmm.
one on supply chain, and the one we're going to show, which is actually around a music festival. So
Hmm.
Dash and I are now promoters at a music festival. We're going to running all things music festival-ish, and this agent is connected to all the data we care about. In fact, even Dash, if you click the sources menu here,
Yeah.
you can see like one of the interesting things about Snowflake Intelligence is it can integrate across a number of different types of data. So that includes like your unstructured data, documents, images that you've processed. In this case, we've connected it to some data we've ingested through SharePoint. A bunch of my Snowflake data, that's going to include a few different tables. I think there's 5 different tables that it's
Hmm.
connected to. Obviously, this could be much more. And even data from like the Snowflake marketplace. So in this case, Gannett Publishing and the USA Today network of publishers is like posted in the Snowflake marketplace. Hey, if you want access to news source, that's right there. So this is
Hmm.
our agent, but it's just sitting there waiting for us to know what we want to do. And so we'll start. I mentioned we're show promoters. We'll ask the first question, which is just, hey, how are our ticket sales doing? Like Snowflake Intelligence, help me understand how ticket sales are doing by month and by region. And even we're going to nudge it to show this in a line chart. And what happens right away is I mentioned like this is all powered by AI and agent. So the agent gets to work. It's thinking through my question. It's trying to figure out like what's the best way to answer Jeff's question. And in this case, it automatically for me wrote the precise SQL query that it needed to know to answer this question. Now, for those of you who might be more familiar with some of the Snowflake platform, this is really just an ensemble of different tools that it's pulling together. So the text to SQL piece is powered by Cortex Analyst, which is like a standalone Snowflake API. And so the agent is smart enough to call Cortex Analyst and say, hey, give me the SQL that I need. And now, after a few seconds, without jumping into a dashboard, I just see the answer to my question. Like, here's how ticket sales are going. One of the things I love the most here is the little green shield right there, Dash, if you want to hover over it.
Hmm.
So data teams also have the ability to like certify, in addition to describing about their data, they can certify different queries. So like if there's something in your company, hey, when we talk about revenue, make sure that this is how we're querying revenue, because every company has their own very
Hmm.
precise, magic that they do to define some of these things. So you can educate Snowflake Intelligence and say, this is how we want to talk about these things, in our case, ticket sales. And then me as a user, I get warm fuzzies because I know when I'm looking at this chart, if I'm going to go use this chart for something, I know that this is the verified source of truth way to look at something
Hmm.
like ticket sales, all rendered to me in a beautiful chart.
That's
Yeah,
pretty awesome.
I love it. Okay, so now let's go a little bit further, which is like, hey, it's not just about SQL data. We can also ask data that might be sourced from other sources. So in our case, in the, whatever music festival world that we're living in, I'm going to ask it some details about a contract that we have with one of our artists, which is the algorithms. Snowflake Intelligence actually came up with this artist name. I love it, Dash. This is truthfully, I guess I play the piano, so I have some
Mhm.
musical talent. I need to start a piano jazz band and call it the Algorithms because I love the name. So hopefully you'll join Dash. Do you have musical talents at all, Dash? Anything that
Yes,
you
I
can?
can play drums a little bit.
Oh, that's great. Okay, so yeah, this is a jazz trio. Now we just need someone to do
Yeah.
bass, and we're set. Um, but in this case, like the agent still went and thought. You actually see in the thinking here, it's telling you how it's doing it. It's using Cortex
Hmm.
Search behind the scenes, and it's automatically looked through those SharePoint documents to, you can see the sources here. It's like giving me my answer. It's like, yep, this is the payment terms, here's the sources. If I want to go verify this, I can click into those SharePoint docs as well. But again, I just get the answer right away delivered to me. um, now, the way that all this
Hmm.
works again is that we have this semantic model behind the scenes. So we don't have to show that right now, Dash, but just note that
Okay.
like powering a lot of these things is this layer that teams can build that helps provide like synonyms for common terms. So for instance, maybe somebody comes to Snowflake Intelligence and they say, hey, tell me about our upcoming gigs because they're really cool. So they use the word gigs. Well, maybe in data, like the actual table is called festivals. So how does
Hmm.
the agent know that when Jeff says gigs, he actually is referencing festivals? That's the semantic model, the semantic view that you as a data team can go and create. We've also built a bunch of tools to help making that easier. So one of the things that we're launching very soon is the ability to like import Tableau dashboards. So maybe if you have a Tableau dashboard that has a tile upcoming festivals, we'll ingest that and we'll use it to like go educate and make our way smarter. We already have AI that does it. We'll even look at your query history. We'll be like, how are you using these tables? What are some of the queries that are happening in your org right now so that we can help create that model for you? Now, I want to show one more question here in Snowflake Intelligence before we go to a few other questions, which is Dash, if you scroll up to the first chart,
Yeah.
if I look at ticket sales, like like there's something happening here with this green line, right? So it's kind of, it goes down in February, it jumps up in March, and then it drops down again in April. And I don't know how many of you relate to the feeling of you open some Streamlit, you open some dashboard, you see a chart like this, you have a question, you're like, what's going on here? What I end up doing for charts that I look at is I open Slack and I ping the data team and I say, hey, data team, I saw something in the dashboard. Can you go dig into this and tell me what's going on? And, they're a wonderful data team, but I'm sure behind the scenes, they're like, oh, great. Here comes Jeff asking some question. There goes whatever I was planning to do. Exactly. They facepalm themselves. They're like, I should have muted Jeff ages ago. But because we wired up Snowflake Intelligence, rather than me opening Slack, let's just ask the agent. Like, let's just ask our agent friend here, like, hey, clearly something's going on in Europe. Can you tell me what's happening in Europe? And what the agent's going to do here, you'll see it started its reasoning thing, is it's just kicking into all the different data that it has available to it. So it knows, if you remember, we had those news sources in USA Today. It's like, I'm going to go look at the news. Like maybe there was something happening in Europe that would correspond to what's happening there. You can see the query it's writing right now. It's looking at marketing metrics. So it's like, hey, I have access to marketing data. Let's go see if there was some marketing that might
Mhm.
relate to this. So all of these different dimensions of my data, the agent is intelligently doing data analysis right now. It's just like I had a trusted analyst sitting right next to me. And what I love is it's able to blend together all of the data automatically for me. And so I have here, things like USA Today news articles. I have things like marketing metrics. And so here, after a few seconds, it's giving me some analysis. It's like, hey, by the way, there were these big music festivals held in March in Europe for country to country that could correlate to the growth that you saw in your festivals. And that it pulled from the news. You can see it cited there. But they're also, point number 4 here, it's like you did have a marketing campaign and it had really good daily social media impressions. So it could be your Spring Blast marketing campaign. So to me, this is awesome. Like
Mhm.
this just saved me a bunch of time to go try to get some clues. And now I could, continue to dig in. Even, we won't show the demo now, but I can configure these agents to go and integrate with other systems as well, whether that's to
Mhm.
pull in data or to take action. So for instance, I could be like, hey, I want to go send an email now. Like it sounds like we had a really good marketing campaign. Help me now write an email to the marketing team so that I can go tell them, hey, this was a great job. And it's even asking, do you want to include specific budget numbers? Yeah, sure, do it. Let's include the budget number. So it's clarifying with us, it's doing these things. So we're super excited to kind of like figure out how we can help bring all of these insights and democratize them across your entire organization, doing everything from looking at your structured data and tables, your unstructured data and documents, pulling in data from various different data sources, and being able to take action, even like sending an email. The one thing I'll mention here is this pulls the budgeting info we told it to. Thank you, agent. Everything it's doing right now, it's doing on behalf of Dash. Now, why I
Mhm.
say that is if Dash doesn't have access to, let's say, budget information, the agent's not going to have access to budget information. So it's all of the data that it's looking into, it's doing on behalf of Dash. It looks like it gave us an email draft, but it did it in the thinking step, which is fine. We didn't fully configure the email tool. But those permissions, that governance, that's all there as well. So it's only going to show the data that Dash has access to, which is another really nice thing there. So that's the demo. Dash, I don't know if there's any other questions that you have for me, but hopefully that makes sense in terms of what Snowflake Intelligence it is and the types of insights that you can start to deliver to an organization through things like AI agents that are all secured, governed, and powered, running inside of Snowflake, just connected to the data, running right next to that data that we've crafted and curated and loaded and connected to Snowflake.
That's awesome. Hope folks got an idea of how powerful this tool is for not just developers to actually build out, but also for business users to use. We have a great question from one of the listeners here. So the question is, we're an analytics provider. How can we allow your users to interact with our data via Snowflake Intelligence?
So, and Amir, depending on exactly where you're surfacing from,
Hmm.
the one thing I'll call it is, at least for right now, Snowflake Intelligence can only be accessed with other employees within your organization. So if you say analytics provider and that like you're providing analytics for other companies, I guess the answer would be the same. Uh, so you have to have a user created for that person. If they already have a user, that's great. And then through Snowflake role-based controls, you need to make sure that that user has access to at least one of your agents that you have created. So you saw, if you saw at the beginning, Dash had like 3 agents that he created. If he wanted, let's say we want to invite, I don't know, Daniel into Snowflake Intelligence,
Hmm.
we would just say, Daniel, here's your user. Maybe he already has one for Snowflake. And then I'm going to have a role for him where I say this role can access however many agents I want Daniel to have access to. Maybe he can see all 3 of them. Maybe I only want him to talk to the Dash AI agent. But once he has access to an agent, then he'll be able to log in and start to talk to it. So again, he could go to
Right.
ai.snowflake.com, log in with the user account that I created for him, and then he would see the agents that he has access to. So, general Snowflake access control things. Just note, I guess the one thing I'll mention in this as well, one of the pieces that will be lining up here very soon is a flag that will let you set on a user to say, I only want this user to be able to log in to Snowflake Intelligence.
Hmm.
Meaning, maybe Daniel's a user, obviously he has Snowflake roles, but I only ever want Daniel in Snowflake Intelligence. I don't want him to be able to use any other Snowflake tool that his user might have access to. So that's not the case today. Today, once they're a user, they'll have whatever role permissions they have, but that will be coming very soon. Plan to come along with the public preview is that special flag.
So everything is built on the foundation of security and governance, right? That's at the bottom of the
That's right.
platform. Yeah, that's pretty cool. One of the questions coming in: what are the some of the top use cases you're seeing, specifically around, let's say, retail?
Huh. A
Yeah.
few. In fact, just yesterday, I had the chance to go on site and visit a large retailer. I think the biggest one we're seeing that's actually across industries, but definitely applies to retail, are
Hmm.
these concepts, and many of you might be familiar with it, of like these customer 360 platforms. So very often in an organization, if you think of somebody like a customer, they have interactions that are going to span many different systems in an enterprise. Marketing to the customers happening through Marketo or Adobe or you name it. If there's transactions that are happening, there's some ERP system that is managing
Hmm.
transactions. If there's customers who are creating support cases or warranty information, maybe that's being tracked in something like Zendesk. And very often companies are like, how do I pull all that together? Like, if I want to know what's happening for Jeff as a customer or across all of my customers, how do I pull that together? And Snowflake Intelligence makes a really useful piece because, for one, it can connect to all of these different data sources. Like, hey, here's social media sentiment coming in through Reddit. Here's support information coming in through Zendesk. Here's our own internal transaction information that's stored in Snowflake tables so that you can then start to have conversations like, what are the trends that are happening with our customers? Again, the customer I talked to yesterday even said things like, hey, it looks like sales in the East Coast are down. Well, we
Hmm.
know that the weather in the East Coast has been really crummy lately. And so, yeah, it looks like the shorts that normally you're selling right now, those aren't actually selling as popular right now as they used to. It looks like weather might be a cause there. So some of that customer 360 pieces has been a really big use case, again, across industries that we've started to see. Is I guess one that I would highlight. The other one in retail I'll mention is like uh, foot traffic, kind of like predictive understanding in
Hmm.
terms of like what's selling, what's not selling, and are there customer behaviors that can help us surface that. Again, another really useful one where it's like there's a lot of data involved in that. Sometimes the biggest challenge is synthesizing all of that data, and this agent does a really good job at being able to synthesize across a bunch of different data.
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it accurate to say you can use Snowflake Intelligence for pretty much any use case, right? The
Mhm.
key is the data that you have access to, basically.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Another quick question: how do we set the sources that Snowflake Intelligence can use them? Do we have to
Yeah.
train like we provide verified queries in Cortex Analyst?
So yeah, and the experience, Sridhar, is if like when you actually create these, we've got like this no code editor where, to Dash's point, it's like configure all the data sources that you want. There's three primary building blocks that you're using today when you're adding tools to an agent. The first one is Cortex Analyst. So to your point, if you're using Cortex Analyst, which is where you capture those verified queries, it's the same thing Snowflake Intelligence uses. So anything you've already created, you just click it right in. You're like, this is where we already have our Cortex Analyst thing. The other thing is Cortex Search. That will search over unstructured documents, so you can add as many of those that you want. And then the last one is you have this ability to add custom tools, which is just like go do something more custom, which could call an API. It could go and execute some send an email task or whatever else. So it is through that same semantic view that Cortex Analyst uses and Cortex Analyst itself that is what the agent pulls from. And then I mentioned kind of at the top, a big area of investment for us as an engineering team is how we can add more automation and intelligence to actually go help you and create your best set of verified
Mhm.
queries. Like, can we suggest to you, hey, it looks like this should be a verified query. Does this look right? Like, can you give us that that's right or not to make it much faster to set some of these things up? Excuse me.
That's great. So basically, Cortex Search for unstructured data, and then Cortex Analyst for structured data.
That's
And
it.
we have APIs as well as UI based interfaces to basically create these different tools that power Snowflake Intelligence, right?
Mm.
Yeah. Um, awesome. Thank you. Uh, here's a question I have. So, how should people think about Snowflake Intelligence as compared to other platforms that are out there?
Yeah, obviously, agents is the hot topic for
Mhm.
2025. And as such, I think pretty much every major technology software vendor has some form of an agent and even conversational interface that's happening. To me, if I was to say like where is Snowflake really focused and I feel very confident to say differentiated and world class is around like the data retrieval pieces. So it's specifically like conversations or interfaces that are really heavily rooted in doing data tasks. If the thing you're trying to do is more operational tasks, hey, I need to open up a job rec or I need to go whatever uh do some other, automated task, you can absolutely do that in Snowflake and we'll support it, but you've got a lot of options there too. But anytime that agent is going to need access to enterprise data, that's where Snowflake Intelligence is going to be really useful. In a big part for that, I think are two things. One is things like Cortex Search and Cortex Analyst are just world class in terms of
Mhm.
quality and accuracy of the results we're able to do, like incredibly rich insights, especially given like that semantic layer that we're investing in. And the other part is the governance. It's especially when it comes to an enterprise, you can't just take all your data and copy and paste it into some other AI platform and be like, good luck, have fun. Hopefully, no data that is sensitive leaks to anywhere that it shouldn't. And so, those are the two aspects that we're really focused heavily on. The one thing I'll mention on this too, though, is everything that Snowflake Intelligence does is the Snowflake platform behind the scenes. So
Mhm.
if you want to do anything that we showed you in the demo, but you're like, hey, I already have my own agent, or maybe we have our own UI, or I want to do this in a Streamlit, or I want to integrate with this with whatever else, that's totally cool. Like, have your agent call the Cortex agent API layer, or have it call Cortex Search. Like, you can mix and match these different building blocks if you want. If you want something that's off the shelf, ready to go, Snowflake Intelligence is that thing. If you want a little bit more flexibility, that's great. Like, we're not going to try to say, no, you have to use everything pulled together. We just want to give an option for people who want that last mile taken care of as well.
Yeah, and for developers, there's REST APIs for both analysts and also agents that can route requests automatically based on if it's structured or unstructured. So that's pretty cool. I have some
And some great quick
examples.
starts that we even have of doing like a
Yeah,
Slack bot that does
yeah.
exactly that. I
Mhm.
can't remember who created those, but they're really, really good.
I've created Slack, Teams, and Zoom integrations with
Oh, wow.
Cortex
I haven't
Agent.
Zoom
Yeah.
one yet. Slack I have
Mhm.
done. I've built and run your Slack one many a time. I did not know you had Zoom. I got to go try that one out.
Yeah, Zoom's featured on their website too.
Oh, very cool. Very
Yeah.
cool.
One more question I have
Yeah.
is, what about like this is some of the things or one of the questions I get asked also when I'm doing some of these labs. Can you talk about like what kind of LLMs power these things?
Ah, yes. So if you're not already familiar, Snowflake runs and serves today a ton of different models. And the reason we serve them is we want to make sure that your data never has to leave your Snowflake account. And so that includes models from Anthropic, OpenAI, Mistral, Llama. Specifically for Snowflake Intelligence, though, more for a timing perspective, we have really optimized it only for the top frontier models. So what that means is like Claude 3.5 or 3.7, soon Claude
Mhm.
4. We just have to finish running some eval sets and make sure that the quality is great. And then on the Azure side, we just lit up OpenAI, some of the new OpenAI models, specifically OpenAI 4.1 to power many of these things. Now, for some of the components like SQL generation, there's kind of like an ensemble of models that work together, including some custom Snowflake things. But in general, the core model that's doing most of the legwork is either Claude or GPT
Mhm.
4.1. We give you the choice in that small set of things. And again, the main reason is at the end of the day, we want to make sure that we're providing like really robust reasoning and really high quality. And those are the models that we've been optimizing. And we have a ton of tests against. Like every single night, we run a bunch of tests to make sure that you can ask really complex questions, really easy questions, and you get really good quality. And we've really focused on either Claude or OpenAI for now to power those.
Nice. I guess we have time for one more before we
Is it
wrap
in?
up. Let's see. How does Snowflake Intelligence address the complex regulatory requirements, GDPR, HIPAA, and what have you? Yeah,
Yeah. First and foremost, I'm not an expert on these things. I'm a very
me
well
neither.
aware, but like it's not my forte. That said, I think the benefit of Snowflake Intelligence, which I mentioned before, is it automatically enforces all of the access controls that have been configured for your Snowflake data automatically. So there's no additional replication of your
Mhm.
permissions. There's no additional configuration that's needed. And Snowflake itself is compliant to all of these GDPR, HIPAA, industry specific regulations. So, assuming that you have also configured all the things that you need to on your side to make sure that your data is
Mhm.
being held compliant, Snowflake as a platform is. The benefit here is my initial, again, correct me if I'm wrong here, anybody, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, though I've done a really bad job. I have not checked my LinkedIn messages for many, many weeks now. But it should just work. Like,
Yeah,
your data would just be honored, all those permissions and those pieces there. So I think my initial thing would be like, you shouldn't have to do anything other than what you've already done to make sure that your data is being governed and secured following the right protocols that are mandated by these different highly regulated industries.
I think that's all the time we have. Really want to thank you, Jeff, and obviously all the listeners online. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. Please check out all the resources we have on our website, quickstarts.snowflake.com. Also follow Jeff and I. We post a lot of different assets, hands-on labs, and things like that on LinkedIn. So please check us out. And thank you again. Jeff, any final words?
Oh, no, thanks everyone. And hello, Snowflake Bear. So have a good one, everyone. We'll talk to you later.
Right. Hey, likewise.